Hello and welcome to Thursday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, and a puzzle today by Philipp Blume, who's perhaps better known in sudoku circles as Glum Hippo, which is his pseudonym on a variety of platforms out there. Now this puzzle has a German name that I'm not even going to try and embarrass myself by pronouncing. But that German name, Google Translate told me, meant Quiverful of Arrows, which I think is a rather lovely title for such a layout in the grid. You can see we've got loads and loads of arrows, and I'll tell you what they mean in just a moment. Miracle Sudoku, a number of you have been asking about where the Android version is. Well, I wish I knew. We did get a bit more information yesterday. Google asked us for some more info, which we sent them immediately. So I'm hopeful that they will read that and release the game imminently, but I know I said that a few days ago, so they just seem to take a lot longer than App Store and Steam, and obviously as soon as I get word I will announce it on Twitter, which is @CrypticCracking. Now the other thing I want to do before we get started on this puzzle is to say just a huge thank you to everybody out there who's helped us to reach the quite staggering milestone, for us at least, of 250,000 subscribers. That so many of you would enjoy the puzzles that we're showing so much. I mean, I'm not surprised, but because the puzzles are so good, but it takes obviously people to devote time and effort to understanding the puzzles and getting into them, and that so many of you have been prepared to do that is humbling indeed. You know, Mark and I never ever dreamed we could really reach this sort of level. I mean, look, I'm sitting here now. I've still got my copy of War and Peace on which I balance my microphone. I know I need to do something about that. That will help with all the mistyping as well. But yeah, we're two very ordinary guys, as I'm sure a lot of you realise, and to reach these heady heights in the YouTube world is really, really amazing, and we are very, very thankful. Now let me tell you about Philipp's puzzle and the rules. What we have got is normal Sudoku rules apply, and on the marked blue diagonal, no digit may repeat. The digits along an arrow sum either to the number in the circle, okay, that's standard arrow rules, or to the square of that number, okay. And the circle digit does not contribute to the sum in either case. Okay, well that's normal arrows. So in normal arrows, what happens is that the circle contains the sum of the cells along the arrow. Now here, the only difference to that is that it might these cells might sum to the square of the digit in the arrow, in the circle, I should say, the square of the digit in the circle. Goodness me. Right, well, this sounds very interesting. The testing reports say that this is quite a challenging puzzle from a mental arithmetic perspective. So, sounds great. Exactly up my street. Do have a go yourselves. To play, as usual, you click on the link under the video. And with that, let's get cracking. Now, surely this long arrow is where we start, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7... Yes, it is where we start, because obviously 7 cells, the minimum you could make 7 cells in the same row is 28 if you put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 on those cells. Well, we can't put 28 in that cell. So we know that these cells here must sum to the square of whatever I put in this cell, and that square number must be greater than 28. So it's got to be, okay, so it's got to be 6. We need these to add to 36, because if we try 7 here, then obviously those squares would be adding to 49. Now, how do I know that doesn't work? Well, it's because I know that the complete row of any Sudoku puzzle, once it's completed, it will contain the digits from 1 to 9. And if you add those up, you get 45. So this must be 6. These must therefore add up to 36. 36 plus 6 is 42. That square is a 3. And that is a lovely beginning. Now 3, okay, so this is either saying this is 1 and 2 if it sums to the 3 itself, or these cells are summing up to, oh, they're summing up to 9, aren't they, without using a 3. But yeah, look at the quiver full of arrows down this side of the grid. You can't. I don't think you can put a 1 ever in an arrow cell, because, or in a circle, because if I put a 1 in the circle, it's saying those 2 cells or 3 cells or 4 cells have to add up to 1, or the square of 1, which is still 1. So there must be a 1 in one of those 2 squares. So this is either 1 and 2 or 1 and 8, and there's definitely a 1 in them. Now, does that help us? I suppose we can do the same logic down here, can't we? There can't be a 1 in a circle, so 1 must be in one of those cells. There's another long arrow there. Look at this arrow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is a 7-cell arrow, but this time all 7 cells are not in the same row. So we don't... Well, we do know that this is a squared clue, though, because, look, those 4 cells are in the same box, so they all have to be different. Now, those 4 cells, the minimum I can make them add up to, therefore, is 10. And obviously, I can't put a double-digit number in this cell. So this is a square clue. Now, what are the options then? So if this was a 3, these... Alright, well, it's not a 3, because then the 7 cells would have to add up to 9. We already know that the minimum of those cells is 10. So it's got to be higher than 3. 4 would be 16 into these cells. So we'd have 10 here, and then these would have to add up to 6. Well, that looks... I mean, I suppose that one can't be a 1, but this, I can definitely, I think, have a 1 in one of those 2 squares. So I think that is possible, actually. 4 is possible. 5 would be 25. Well, that's even more possible. There's just hardly any restriction on that. So 5 is okay. 6. Six is a little bit interesting, look, because those 3 squares can't include a 9. And if that was a 6, the maximum I could make those would be 8, 7, and 5, which is 20, 24. These 3 squares would have to add up to 12. That's perfectly possible. 6 is okay, I think. 7. So 7 is even more constrained on those 3 squares, but this time I've got to reach 49, which is probably impossible. So if that was a 7, I'm going to have to think about this. If this was 7, these 3 squares could be a maximum of 8, 6, and 5, which is 19, plus 4 is 23. So those 3 squares would have to add up to 26. Not possible. Not possible, because I would need to use 2 9s, and I can't. I can use 1 9 in those 2 squares, but the other 9 would then have to go in this square where it can't go. So 7 is not possible. Okay, that's good. Well, I say it's good. It's not great, but 4, 5, or 6 into this cell. That does not does not seem to be a restriction that is going to cut the mustard. Oh dear. Okay, where else do we look in this puzzle? If we don't look at the huge long arrow, that's going to be a difficult one then. What do I look at? Do I have to look at the diagonal somehow? So this row and this row, they just leave out the diagonal cell. Is that important somehow. This is a beautiful idea, actually. This is a beautiful idea, I think. Look, we've got 3 and 9 on the diagonal there. That got me wondering about whether we could lock in the parity of these two squares. And I think we can. Because, yeah, this is really nice. This is really nice. Let's pick some values for this and just think about it. So let's imagine this was a 7. What would that be telling us about these 5 cells? Well, it would be telling us one of two things. Either that these 5 cells add up to 14, because we'd have 7 along the arrow plus the 7 here. So we'd have 14. Or we'd be saying that these 4 cells here sum up to 49. I know that's impossible, but just bear with me. Because the key thing is that if these do sum to 49, 49 is an odd number. And we're adding an odd number to an odd number. When you square a number, it keeps its parity. So this is very nice. So whether or not these arrow clues are sum clues or square clues, they always sum to an even number. Obviously 5, the square of 5 is an odd number, it's 25. The square of 3 is an odd number. If I square an even number, it's very easy. Obviously, square an even number, we get even numbers. When we add even numbers together, it's a bit more obvious that we get even numbers. But when we add 2 odd numbers together, we get an even number as well. And that is very nice. So that means that in these 2 rows, these 2 digits have to be odd, because we are summing even digits together, and we know the total for the row is an odd number because it's 45. So those have to be odd, and they can't be 3 and 9. So these are 1, 5 and 7. Now, what does that mean? That is a good question. What does that mean? So that means the totals for the arrow cells in any of these rows is either 44, 40 or 38. So I wonder if we can, I'm just wondering if I can get, can we have 2 sum clues in a row? Well, if we did, the highest I could make those digits would be 8 and 9. And that's not enough, is it? That's rather gorgeous as well. Because if I put 8 and 9 in these 2 cells and make the sums as maximal as I can, obviously what we've basically got here is 2 lots of 8 and 9. That's 34. 45 minus 34 is 11, and I definitely can't put 11 into these squares. So we know that there is at least 1 square clue on each side of this diagonal. Oh, good grief. So what are the options for the square clues? So if we had, we can't put 1. 1 just doesn't work. So let's rule out 1. If we had a 2 in an arrow cell, in a circle cell, and it was a square clue, we'd have to have, so the total for the arrow would be 6, and that actually you couldn't have 2 on here because you'd be, obviously these 2 would be summing to the square of this, so you'd have to have 4 plus 2 is 6. If you have 3, you've got 3 plus 9, that's 12, so 6 and 12. If you've got 4, you've got 4 and 16, that's 20, it's getting bigger. 5 would be 5 plus 25, that's 30. And 6 would be 6 plus 36, which is 42. Right, good. Okay, well 42 we can rule out, because if I make one of these arrows add to 42, you can see there's absolutely no way I can make the other cells in that row add to only 3. There's just, the arrows are all too long. So we're looking for some combination. So the sums of the square clues are either 6, 12, 20 or 30. Oh goodness, I might need to use a notepad or a spreadsheet or something to do this. I'll keep trying to do it in my head, but this is going to be complicated because I've got 3 possible sums for these 2 rows. I've got 44, 40 or 38. No, I can do a bit more mental arithmetic. Because if the options for the arrows are only 6, 12, 20 and 30, then is it possible to have 2 square clues? Can you have 2 square clues in a row? The answer is no, because although I can make 2 square clues add up to 38, 40 or 44, the only way of doing it is by having 2 that add up to 20. And that, of course, would mean 4 on both sides of the row, which breaks the rules of Sudoku. And we'll put a 5 in the middle. The 5 in the middle would be fine, but the 4s on both sides are not fine. So, okay, we are getting somewhere slowly. I'm sorry about this, but I have to do this slowly. So we know we've got one side of the arrow is a square, and one side of the arrow is a sum. Now, can we rule out anything? So the maximum size of a sum clue would be a 9. So if we had a 9 in a sum clue, this would equal 9. 18 is the absolute maximum. And the absolute minimum total for the arrows is if we make the central square or this square a 7. So if we had a 7 in one of those, we're trying to get to 38. 38 minus the maximum of 9 is obviously 18. So we're up. So 20 is the minimum square. Right. So we are getting somewhere very slowly. We're getting somewhere very slowly. So originally we worked out the possible square clues were 6, 12, 20 and 30. And I'm now down to just 20 and 30. Because if I don't use 20 and 30, I can't make the row add up to enough. So I'm still doing well. I've not used a notepad yet. I'm going to keep going. So 20 or 30 has to add up to a sum clue to equal 44, 40 or 38. So if I try and use 20, the only thing that works is 20 is 4 and 9. So if we have 4 and 9 like this is the only way, and that adds up to 38. That would put a 7 in the middle. This is one option. One of these arrows could be this. And it's the only way of using a 4 as the square clue. Everything else will have to use 5 as the square clue. Let's do that in this row instead. So if we use 5 in a square clue, we need to add 30, and the sum clue will either have to be, yeah, this is nice, look. So let's say that this is a 5 and this is a square clue, so this adds up to 30. That means this sum clue has to add up to either 14, that would make that a 7 and this a 1, that looks like it works, or let's undo that, 40, which won't work, look, because if it's 40, I have to repeat the 5 in the row. So 40 is ruled out. If this was 7, though, I'd have to make this these add up to 8, which would make this a 4 again. Okay. So there are two, this is a bit annoying because there are two ways you can make 5 work. So 1 and 7, or 4 and 7 there. So can you have, I'm now worried I could have 5. Can I have 5 up here as well? And then I would have, what would it be? 25, 30, 1, 7 for example. And look, I'm not getting any clashes in the boxes. Bother! No, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Yes, I can. Because if I use 5 as the square clue, it can't go in the middle row because both of these arrows are 3 cells. And I have to make the arrow on the square clue add up to 25, and I can't make 25 in 3 cells. So this row simply cannot include a 5 in either perimeter cell. So it has to be the other one. I've forgotten what the other one was now. The other one used 4 as the square clue. So 4 is 20. Yes, 4 and 9. 4 and 9 gives 38. That puts 7 in the middle. We have got a digit in the middle. This is progress for sure. So now this square can't be 7 anymore. So this is 1 or 5. And we've got to put, yeah, this is brilliant because now I know the only option for my square clue that's left once I've used up the one clue that worked for 20, I've got to have my square clue adding to 30, which needs a 4-cell sum. So this is 5. These add up to 30. Sorry, all of those add up to 30. This is not 5. This is 1, therefore. Can't be 7 because the 7's gone as an option. And this has to be a 7 in order to get me up to 30 plus 14 plus 1 is 45. Da-da! I think. Now, that clue, this is a sum clue. So those two have to add up to 7 without being 1, 6 or 2, 5. They are 3 and 4. That means that is a 9 and that's a 4. So the 9 clue is the sum clue in this row. So these squares, this is interesting. We can do a bit of sort of killer Sudoku logic here. 3 cells which add up to 9, but we can't use 2, 3 and 4 anymore because that's gone. So we know there must be a 1 in this sum. It can't be here. So one of those two is a 1. And this is either 1, 3, 5 or 1, 2, 6. These squares are the balance for the row, obviously. So that's what, 2, 6, 8, and 9. This arrow or circle is now interesting, look, because we can't put a 1 in the first 3 positions. This is great. Yeah, this is great. So now, if we can't put a 1 in the first 3 positions, the only place a 1 could go on this arrow is here. So I can have a maximum of 1, 1, which means the minimum I can make those squares would be 2, 3, and 4. This arrow now adds up to 10, which means we can't put 10 in there, obviously. Now, why does this matter? Well, it means this is a square clue. And it's a 4-cell sum that can't be 3 or 4. It can't be 2 because we can't make these 4 cells add up to 4, so it's not 2. Yeah, it's 5, isn't it? It's 5. 5 would mean these 4 squares add up to 25. But if we try 6, these 4 squares have got to add up to 36, which would mean they all have to be a 9. And you can't put 4 9s along this for many, many, many different reasons. This is a 5. So 5 has to live in one of those 2 cells. Look in the middle box. And it can't go here. This is gorgeous. It can't go here because if the 5 goes there, these would have to be a 1-3 pair to make the triple add up to 9. So the 5 doesn't go there. The 5 goes here. Now this was the square clue, which means those have to add up to 16. So these have to add up to 11. Therefore, they have to be 3 and 8. The reason they have to be 3 and 8 is 5, 6, 4, 7 and 2, 9 are all ruled out. So there's no 8 there, which means there is an 8 here, which means there is an 8 here. Seven has got to be in one of those 3 squares. In fact, this square is restricted, isn't it? Because this is a 3-cell sum. So it can't be a 2. Whether it's a sum or a square, it can't be a 2. And it can't be a 1. And it can't be a 3, 4, 5, 6 or 8. This is a 7 or a 9. It can't be a 9. Because if it's a 9, there's got to be a 7 on the arrow. I thought for a minute it could have been vicious and been and that would have been a possible arrangement, and this was a sum clue. But look, that doesn't work because the 1 in this column here must be in the bottom row, which means this cannot be a 1. Phew. Okay, so that actually is lovely because that means that this has to be 7. It can't be 9. Then now there must be a 1 in one of those 2 squares by Sudoku, look. And we can fill this in because look, the other options, what other digit is missing that have we not placed in this box yet? Well, the options to pair up with this 1 are either 2, which is great, 6, which is not great because those 2 would add up to 7 already. We'd have to put 0 in there, or 9, which totally breaks the bank. So this has to be a 1-2 pair. There's no 2 here. There's no 6, 9 here. 1. This has to be a 4, obviously to make this triple add up to 7. 4 means that's a 6. Yeah, okay, so this is 1, 2 and 6 now, and the 2's are in that joining the 1 here. This square is a naked single, therefore. There must be a 6 down here. This is 6 and 8. And suddenly, after all of that calculation, it feels like we are on the right track. Beautiful. Look at this diagonal. 3, 9. That square's a naked single. That's got to be a 4. This one was adding up to 25. We've got 14. So these 2 add up to 11. So this square can be a 2 or an 8, I think. Now there's probably a way of... I was going to say there's probably a way of telling which is which, but I can't see what that is. Where does a 4 go in column 9? It's not there, and it's not here because of that 4, so it must go here. And look, where does it... Now we can ask where 8 goes. Because the reason is you can't put a 1 or a 2 in a 3-cell arrow. So the 8 must go there, which means that 8 doesn't go up there. This is beautiful. Again, this 4 now comes into its own because this cannot possibly be a square clue. I can't make those 3 squares add up to 64. So it's a sum clue. 3 cells adding up to 8 without using 4. They've got to be 1, 2 and 5. That can't be 1, look. So the 1 is in one of those squares, which tells this 4 clue now can't be 1 and 3. So it must be 7 and 9. I was suddenly worried that wasn't going to be possible, but it is, of course, possible to make 16 with 2 cells. The 8 fixes the 2 here. That fixes that that's a 9. Didn't I need those to add up to 11? I think I did. I did. 9, 3. The 2 isn't here, so the 2 is here. This square's a naked single, that's a 3. That fixes the 3 and the 4. The 2 fixes the 2 and the 1. The 1 fixes the 1 and the 5. Now where does 5 go on the diagonal? Oh, this is beautiful logic, isn't it? Look, this 5 pinches 2 of the squares. That 5 pinches a third. 5 must go there. Actually, let's have a look at the rest of this diagonal now. What do I need? I need 2, 6 and 8. Yeah, okay, so where does 2 go on the diagonal now? It can't go here or here for these 2's. So 2 goes over there. That forces the 1 up. These have to be 6 and 8. 8 here tells me the order. So that's 8. That fixes the 8 and the 6. Fixes a 6 here. And we are well and truly cooking with gas. What a gorgeous puzzle. 3, 8, 9. So there must be an 8 in one of those squares. Oh, where does 9 go? In row 8 now. Well, this 9 rules those 2 squares out. So 9 goes there. These 2 squares have got to be 3 and 7. So 7 is just here. This is 3. Those 2 squares have got to be 8, 9 to complete the column. 8 here tells me the order. So those 2 squares are 5 and 8 to complete that box. These 3 squares have got to be 3, 6 and something else which I'm not scanning. 1, 3 and 6. 1, 6 here. So this is 3. Now, can we keep going here? We can. 8. We know 8 can't be a square clue in 2 cells. So it must be a sum clue, but we've got a 6 here, so it can't be 2, 6, and a 5 here, so it can't be 3, 5. This is 1, 7. 7 here tells us the order. 7, 1, 1, 2. This 1 sees the 1, 2 over there as well. That plonks a 1 on in row 1. These squares have got to be a 2, 3, 4 triple because they can't include a 1. Where does the 4 go on that triple? Well, it can't go in either of those yellow cells, so it must go here. And it's so close. 5, 6 and 7 into those squares. Again, options are limited, aren't they? That one can't be 5, that one can't be 6, that one can't be 7. So those 3 squares are also limited. That's got to be 5, 7 and 8. That one can't be 5, that one can't be 7. I feel I'm very close to cracking the puzzle now. Where does 6 go in column 8? That's a sensible question to ask. It can only go there. That fixes the 5 and the 7. That fixes the 7 here, look. 5 fixes the 5 and the 8. That fixes the 8 and the 2. So at the top of this column we need a 4 and an 8, I think. We can do that now. These 3 squares are 4, 7 and 9. Again, options are limited, but not entirely. Okay, I just need to figure something out in this feel like we've done everything we can. Oh no, we haven't. Look at this. I'm so silly. It's this one. This one was a 36 sum, wasn't it? And now look, what have I got on here? I've got 10, 14, 30. So this has to be a 6. There you go, 6, 1. That fixes the 1 at the top. The 6 must go here. Now, oh, goodness me, that was mistyping. So this looks like it's a 2-3 pair, and that 2 tells me that that's 3, 2, 3, 8, 8, 5. 5 must go here, 2 goes here. It looks like it's working okay. 9, 7, 4. Please don't have made a mistake. That looks like a 9. Oh, don't, and fill in all of the digits. There you go. Let's click check. Yes. Wow, that was a brilliant puzzle. Philip, I loved that. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me struggle, especially with the mental arithmetic around these 2 rows. That was quite challenging for me. And we'll be back later on, of course, with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.